As Vivek said earlier, I would think that this term of Nitish Kumar has not been that successful compared to his previous terms. It could also be the base effect when Nitish came to power. So if you remember, if we just rewind a little bit, in 2005, there was an election in February of that year when no one really could form a government, when LJP had done pretty well in the election, actually, uh, uh, which was actually their best performance. But after that, when the election happened again towards the end of the year, that is when Nitish first came to power with BJP support, and he has since been the CM, except for a small stint by Jitan Ram Manji when he was propped up by Nitish himself. So uh, the first 10 years were focused on quote unquote reforms. I mean, he and Sushil Modi were seen as the progressive face of the NDA in terms of taking steps. I mean, Sushil Modi did a lot of work on GST, for example, with the backing of with the backing of Nitish Kumar. Even stuff like the taking away the APMC Act, etc. Nitish did this long back in 2006. So a lot of those changes, which are considered good tick marks by the commentariat, Nitish actually acted on it very early on. So it is quite possible that the aura was much higher. I mean, of course, the state budget has since gone up about 10x or so between when Nitish took over as a CM and now. So certainly, I mean, there's been some progress in terms of the economic indicators. But anecdotally speaking, last 2-3 years, especially, perhaps his control on the administration has not been as strong. Law and order, which has been a tendentious issue with Bihar, always seems to have again roared his head in the last few years, at least anecdotally. And the aura which he had in Delhi certainly seems to have gone down, which was the case till 2016 or so. So and the fact that he went back to NDA, of course, then did not obviously endear him with the commentariat until even till the election 2017, or when he really switched back. He was seen as a challenger to PM Modi at some point, as a leader of a imagined cobbled up alliance, right? So I think that part has now vanished from the commentary. So I would from observing from outside, I would say that yes, his popularity, or at least his aura, has taken a beating. Whether people still want him as a CM, this could be a very similar situation to what happened with, say, Shivraj Singh Chauhan and MP, where people had their own problems with the administration, but they also knew that he's still the best fit person for the state, at least for the immediate future. So it might play out the same way. I mean, of course, in MP, BJP lost narrowly. Here, the result could be different. But I'm not sure if he'll complete a full 5-year term in that sense. And as Vivek said, JDU being a single person party also means that if he's not very active or not very popular, then that vote base has to shift somewhere. And that is what Chirag Paswan is currently positioning himself for.
I think just on Nitish Kumar's aura, as Ashish was saying, I think it would be fair to point out at this point that what Nitish Kumar basically did over the last 5 years has he's pissed off vocal sets of supporters on both sides, right? In the sense that BJP supporters never really have forgiven him for anti-BJP people have never really forgiven him for going back after and cheating the mandate as they see it of having won down an anti-BJP platform. To that extent, I think vocal sections of the society on both sides don't really like Nitish Kumar. And that may have caused this thing in his perception that, he's not really done well over the last 5 years as maybe he had previously. I mean, I would just like to point out what Vivek said about the COVID crisis, right? I mean, it's pretty clear that Bihar has done a really good job today of managing the COVID crisis. Even 6 months back, people were like, oh, what will we do when COVID hits? COVID finally reaches Bihar, and this is one of probably the most densely populated part of the world, right? And one of the poorest parts of the world, and he has a mortality rate which is one of the lowest in the world. It is easily the lowest of India's large states. So, bad press because he's angered a lot of vocal people on both sides.
Okay, just to add on COVID, it's a very interesting topic, right? Like when in the initial months when the disease hit us, the states which had the capacity were quite fancied, and in the initial months when the numbers were low, there was a lot of analysis around this model, that model, role of individual health ministers, and so on. What happened after, let's say, June, which is when the home quarantine process started, the state capacity became less important in the management of the pandemic, because then the patients were not being, let's say, I mean, the state did not have to, take care of all the patients. A lot of people were just at their homes. So at that stage, that is when Bihar really picked up in terms of its management. Today, Bihar has done the second highest number of tests, about 93 lakhs as of yesterday, after second largest after UP. And despite being the 11th largest case count in India, the mortality is 18th or 19th highest, so one of the lowest mortalities. So, like, this is a fairly, like, in the initial months, you would see videos around mismanagement in COVID center, etc. But when the battle moved home, that is when Bihar has really done quite well. It could also be the discipline of the people themselves in terms of not venturing out too much. But I think the testing part has certainly been a huge success in Bihar. There's no doubt about it. Also because it started in the month when there was a huge flooding in the Kosi belt. That is when the testing was also ramped up. So it was not very easy also just to execute it. So I mean, credit to the state government and the central support which then came through.